This video is designed to introduce you to the College Board's AP European History exam. It should give you a much better idea of the challenge you face when you sit down in May to take that test. Before we begin, however, I need to make a little disclaimer. I believe that learning history and taking tests are two different things. You study the past to know how the world in which you live came to be. You gain a better appreciation of the human experience by studying people who lived in a different time. When you study history, you understand what it is to be human. When you take a test, you're trying to get a good grade, and that's a significant difference. The College Board exam doesn't measure all you gain from this course, yet it is the only measure that other people will use to determine how well you have performed. I believe the test is flawed in this way, but I also believe that with the proper preparation and effort, you can do very well on it. As we learn history, I'll take on the role of a teacher. When we prepare for the exam, I'll take on the role of a coach. Always keep in mind that anyone can beat this test. Yes, there are many historical facts you have to learn and remember, but half the battle with this exam is knowing what is expected of you. The first thing you have to realize is that this is a long test. You have to sit for more than 3 hours. Those of you who have taken the AP US History exam or other AP tests, you know about the stamina necessary to endure an exam like this. If you're taking other AP courses, this test will be scheduled in the same 2 weeks as those other exams. Be prepared. Of the 185 minutes, only 55 of them are taken up with multiple choice questions. You'll spend more than twice that amount of time writing essays. The multiple choice questions do move along at a nice clip. You have to keep up a speed of completing about 1.5 questions a minute to finish the full 85 questions in 55 minutes. The writing section includes 3 essays, 2 of which are traditional history essays, and the other involves the interpretation of primary documents, and this is called a document-based question. For grading purposes, the multiple choice and essay sections each count for half the grade. Now, those multiple choice questions involve content from the Renaissance through the present, and you can think of Napoleon as the dividing line, with half the questions coming before and half afterwards. And the 50% of the questions that follow Napoleon are split evenly between the 19th and 20th centuries. You should remember this as you trudge through the kings and queens, popes, philosophers, and writers of the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. In terms of content, the multiple choice questions are split by thirds into a focus on economic social, cultural intellectual, and political diplomatic. Most students have been trained to think that leaders, wars, and treaties are the most important things to memorize. The truth is that paintings, economic trends, and cultural traits are every bit as important, and you'll be surprised at how many questions are accompanied by maps, images, and graphs. Now, the essay section of the exam starts with a mandatory 15-minute reading period. This is the time that everyone holds their breath and hopes they can write an essay about something they know well. Now, the DBQ comes with its own documents. You're not required to add outside information. I'll explain the DBQ in another video, but you have to analyze the documents, outline, and write the DBQ essay in 45 minutes. Most of you are used to writing at a much slower pace, but you'll be comforted to know that as fast as you have to write, the graders realize that you're writing under pressure. The free response essays are traditional history essays. The free response essays are traditional history essays, and you have only 35 minutes to write each. The time is measured for the whole section, however, so you have 70 minutes to write both. You can spend more time on one of the essays, but remember that any extra time you spend on one of them means less time on the other. And you do have a choice with the essays. There are 2 sets of 3 questions each, so everyone's hoping that they will get a question that they can answer well, and the chances are you will. But keep in mind that just like the time, everything is calculated together. If you do poorly on one of these essays, you can make up for it on another essay or a strong performance on the multiple choice. The essays are graded on a 1 to 9 score. There are many different ways to look at performance on this exam. I think that you should shoot for essays in the 6 to 8 range, and that should give you a little bit more flexibility on the multiple choice. Sure, there are some tricks you can use on the multiple choice questions to do well, but you can really train for the essays. If you know the grading formula and you practice writing, you can improve your game and the chances are you'll pass. AP test grades are reported on a 1 to 5 scale. If you score a 3, the College Board says you passed and you should receive college credit. However, every school has a different policy regarding AP credit. They're not going to give up thousands of dollars of tuition without a fight, so you have to check with your schools just to make sure. Now, that's the basic construction of the test. Keep an eye out for other videos in the course which focus on each of the individual elements more closely. And if you have any questions about the AP European History exam, please post them in this week's General Weekly Discussion Forum. Thanks.